Hi, my name's Mike Nash, author of Aggressive Health, and I'm here today with Elwin Robinson, good friend of mine, powerful role model, very knowledgeable guy in the realm of energy. And one of the reasons why I'm highlighting that word energy is because Elwin's got a fantastic course coming out, which I'm looking forward to going through myself, all to do with energy and all to do with, you finding out what it takes for you to move more towards that optimal state of being where you can do as much as you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want, etc., etc. So I've got some questions for Elwin, and I'm going to start with a very simple question. What does it mean to you, Elwin? What does the word energy mean to you?
To me, I guess energy means to be alive. That's the fundamental thing. It means that you, as you say, you have the capacity to do whatever you want to do. But I just want to qualify what I mean by energy. In this free series which I'm offering to your subscribers, Mike, I'm really talking about not just energy, because let's face it, if you just want to feel energy for a few minutes or a few hours, just hit the crack pipe, right? Or just have a coffee, or just take a stimulant. I mean, that's not what we're talking about here. I'm not talking about energy like that initial hit and then the crack. Yeah, stay away from the crack, right? What we want is that long-term, high, sustained energy, so you feel consistently like you have high energy to do whatever you want to do. So that's what energy really means to me. Energy shouldn't be like something that you have a little peak of, and then you submerge back into this murk of being depleted and not being capable of doing what you want to do. To me, it means being full as well, like full to bursting, like you're radiant, you're radiating energy. To me, it means that you feel like you have reserves, so that which makes you feel so confident. And I know you know what I mean by this, Mike. Whatever life throws at you, you feel like you can handle it, you can adapt to it, because you have that adaptive energy. And lastly, energy means that you have that character, like the role model thing that you talked about, that you have that energy to do what you know is really important, to prioritize the things that really matter, to think long term again, rather than just hitting the crack pipe or the coffee or whatever, just to get through the day. So those are like the three facets of energy which are really important to me, and they relate to the ancient Chinese Taoist system of categorizing energy, which I know that you've got really into as well, especially over the last couple of years, Mike.
Yeah, definitely. I think the important thing there for people, because sometimes people think about energy, and as you say, they think about what can I consume so I feel good now, but they don't ever think about the reserves. They don't ever think about, excuse me, so I turn my phone off. They don't ever think about what can be done for them to build reserves so that they can then, they can handle an adverse situation. So let's maybe talk about that whilst we're on that particular subject. Everybody knows about food. Maybe some people don't know about the best foods that they can consume. But what would you say from a energy reserve point of view? Where would be a good direction for someone's focus to be taken so they could learn more about what it takes in order to build a reserve of energy, and a reserve which will allow them to adapt, so an adaptive style of, or an adaptive type of energy, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, it's a really great question, Mike. And my previous book and program, which you recommended a couple of years ago, was really focused on that exclusively. This new free training series that we're putting out is more about all the energies, to cultivate every type of energy. But yeah, those reserves. The way I see it, like what the ancient Taoists, the Chinese, would refer to as that Jing, that reserve energy, has like some very real like equivalents in the Western system that's easier for us Westerners to understand. So
Okay.
I tend to find that if a person has high levels of adaptive energy, high levels of reserve energy, one thing that they are is hydrated on a cellular level. So they're properly hydrated. Another thing is that they're adequately mineralized. Okay, so most of us tend to be depleted of minerals. Another issue is that they're alkalized, or at least their acidity alkalinity is actually balanced. Okay. Another thing is that their kidney and reproductive organ system, especially, is strong. Okay. Another thing is that their neurotransmitters and hormones are topped up and balanced. Okay, so that they're not depleted. Another thing is that their bone marrow is actually functioning properly, creating the stem cells, creating blood, creating the things that you need to be able to repair, recover, recuperate, and keep yourself going. And I think the challenge with adaptive energy, and having said all that, it sounds like it's just a lifestyle thing again, right? Like, anyone who alkalizes and drinks water and stuff is going to be okay. I think the challenge with it is that you have those reserves, especially of alkaline minerals, right, and neurotransmitters and stuff, and you actually inherit that genetically from your parents. And so, if your parents were quite depleted in their reserves, then you can still do all the right things. You can drink your green juices and take your supplements and stuff like that, and you can still feel more depleted than other people. And then that's where it's really good, especially, I mean, it's good for everyone, but that's especially where it's good to also take in the tonic herbs, the Jing, or also known as adaptogenic tonic herbs, because they help to, partly, yeah, they give you minerals and they help your body hydrate and they help your body make neurotransmitters and stuff like that, but they also, like, they reteach your body how to build up and retain reserves. In the same way that, you know, like with money, I could show you how to double your income, Mike. But in that case, if you just spent twice as much as you did before, you still wouldn't have any reserves of money, right? So it's like the herbs are almost stepping in and they're teaching your body how to actually hold on to stuff and how to hold on to energy, how to hold on to the reserves, so you can keep building that up. And it does take time, you know, but it doesn't take nearly as long to build it back up as it usually does to deplete it, if you know what you're doing. To that place where you are kind of, I'd like to call it safe or beyond harm. You know, like nothing's gonna affect you. And the word adaptability is really powerful. You know, I think the Jing, this reserve energy, it really relates to survival and reproduction. And
I think it's important, yeah, for people to look out into the world. And I noticed this especially when I reached mid-30s, is that there are certain people, certain friends of mine, where you can see that they came from strong genetic stock. One of my best friends is actually, you know, reaching 60. In fact, he goes out skating with me, so he's quite he's a good role model for someone who's very much still into, you know, movement and staying active. And when I spoke to him about you know, some different concepts to do what you're talking about here, I said to him, it seems to me, having known him for some time, that he was born from a good genetic stock, whereas personally myself, I feel, based on some of my experiences, that I may not have been. So one of the reasons why I noticed such a difference, especially from the tonic herbs, is around, you know, sort of, I don't know, sort of 33, 34, 35, I noticed changes starting to occur, and especially with regards to when you talk about reproductive virility and virile health, you know, I noticed some things starting to decline there. So first and foremost, I'm looking for solutions and looking for answers, and thankfully I, you know, had a conversation with you, and some of those answers, some of those learnings, you know, are now part of my day-to-day reality. So I think it's important for people to be aware and have their awareness open up and look at, you know, where they are, their age right now. You know, maybe that they're watching this and they're a bit sort of carefree. They don't really, they think, oh, well, it sounds really good, you know, but I'm only in my 20s. Which to me, if I knew this when I was in my 20s, this would have made me even stronger and more, yeah, more adaptive throughout those years. Whereas I feel I only really kind of sort of tuned into this maybe at the right time. And it's funny because a lot of people I've spoken to who really got into this, they got into it at that type of age. So you're very much a forward thinker, in my opinion, because I know you're a few years younger than me, Elwin.
Yeah, just a few.
But yeah, so I think that's important for people to be aware of is their genetics, is their genetic stock. But at the same time, you know, the worst thing about saying that is that some people who may not feel, you know, that they are operating at the best is that they might think, oh, it's because I've got bad genetics. But
well, you can definitely use it as an excuse to have a victim mentality, and in fact, that is what I did throughout most of my early life. I mean, I come from pretty poor genetic stock, you know, no offence to myself or my parents, but, you know, my mother died of cancer already when I was in my early 20s, actually mid-20s. My father had chronic fatigue syndrome, which is like severe depletion, you know, and I was severely depleted throughout most of my early life. So, yeah, the message here is not, oh, well, if you've got bad genes and that's it. This is like, no matter what point you're at, it is possible to get to an exceptional level of energy. And every test I've had done, especially over the last few years, whether it's my brain or my blood or my mineral reserves, whatever it might be, everything says you're good, you know, you're doing really well. And so that's just to let everyone know that no matter, and in a way it's kind of funny because if you do have that good genetic stock, then it takes a lot longer to hit you, as you say, Mike.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But the challenge with that is by the time, if it hits you when you're in your 50s and 60s, you're so set in your ways that often it's too late. So I kind of feel blessed that it happened to me in my mid-20s, because if I'd have been stronger, I'd have carried on being stupid until I was 45 or 50, right? And by then it would have been too late. I would have been, too used to being stupid to ever change my mind. I would have been still drinking 20 coffees a day and smoking 20 cigarettes and all that kind of crazy stuff.
So I think one of the important things, just sorry to interrupt you for for a second, is that anyone who's watching this, especially anyone actually, but my subscribers particularly, be very aware that wherever you are right now is always a good time to learn something new and experience something new. And I've experienced it myself, hence why I'm happy to promote Elwin in whatever he does, because his information has helped me. And I'm also very keen to ensure that the people that maybe have read Aggressive Health but didn't even read anything about Chinese tonic herbs or all the other principles that you talk about, because I don't just want to sort of focus exclusively on that, that one of the things I talk about often, really, health comes down to habits and what you will do most days. Yeah. Sometimes people know about stuff intellectually, but the question is, well, are you doing that on a daily basis? And that's really how I like to sort of teach now, from the point of view of, look, I wake up in the morning and I'll do this, and this, but I don't really think about it because I've been doing it for so long. And so I'm assuming that once people have been through your course, that they are going to, I mean, when you gave that list earlier about, brain health, hormone health, bone health, acid alkalis, balance, hydration, the tonic herbs for antioxidants, minerals, mineralization, all of that, people should be looking at that and thinking, okay, so there's that, and then there's the latest diet craze. There's that, all the latest diet craze. Now, we all know, if you go down the route of the latest diet craze, good luck, because you will be coming back to us and you will be coming back at what matters. So,
I've been saying that to a few interviewers, Mike. I'm like, if you're looking for a magic pill, then go off and try and find that. Do that for a few years. When it doesn't work, then you can come back to me. I'll probably be charging a lot more money by then, but that's fine.
So it's crazy, and but yeah, people will always look for the quick fix.
And just to not make anyone wrong here, Mike, I just want to honour everyone for doing their best, because I've been doing a lot of research into the brain. I'm not saying you're making anyone wrong, but this is a tendency I used to get into really strongly. And I've been doing a lot of research into the brain recently and understanding that, especially when you have a lot of continuous stress or trauma, especially early in life, or even trauma at any point in life, it can often stop your brain from working properly or from developing properly, or it can damage it. And there's a part of a brain which we're understanding more and more now called the prefrontal cortex. And that's the part of you that makes decisions, that prioritizes, that sets high standards, that organizes things, that basically is the thing that gets you to get up every morning and do your morning routine, like you're talking about, Mike. But if that part of you is damaged, or if it hasn't had a chance to develop properly, it's really hard for those kind of people, and I was one of those kind of people, to have any kind of discipline, to have any kind of habit, structure, routine that's healthy. It's so easy just to fall into the same thing that everyone else is doing, or the same thing that you've done all your life. It takes a lot of effort, and it takes a particular portion of the brain which may not be very well developed. So part of what we're teaching, in fact, what I'm teaching a lot in this free training series, 3 hours of stuff, is actually about that first part, like getting your brain to a point where you can actually do all that stuff that everyone talks about, whether it's you and your awesome book, Aggressive Health, or anyone else. It's actually, okay, that's awesome, and that is an excellent blueprint. I mean, anyone who does exactly what you say in your book is going to feel amazing, right? But the question is, how do we get them to do it in the first place? And that's the $1 million question to me, and that's what I focused on so much, because I'm not sure how much your audience is aware of it, Mike, but my main focus over the last 2 years has really been coaching and consulting. It's not just been on information and spreading information. That's nice, but it's been on getting results. How can I get people to actually get great results? And because I put out a program called the Easy Exhaustion Cure, I got a lot of clients who are, very depleted and fatigued and exhausted. But I also got a lot of clients who are doing really well, and who just wanted to get to the next level. And I found, that there is a way for everyone. And pretty much the thing that holds everyone back is this thing about the brain. And funnily enough, this relates to one of the other energies which we haven't talked about yet, which is Shen. That's the energy of integrity. That's the energy of thinking long term. Not giving into your immediate impulses, not giving into addictions, not giving into compulsions and repetitive thought patterns. Actually having a vision and then consistently acting to make it happen. And it's all very well to just get up on stage and tell people, you need to set a goal, you need to keep doing it until you get it, right? But the challenge is, for some people, that's damn hard, That's because it's not that it's impossible. I mean, the other concept which is really fascinating in brain research is neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity, which is, no matter how damaged or undeveloped your brain may be in certain areas or not, you can always get it in an optimal shape, right? And the way that you do that is through practice, and just very subtle practice. So, like, this area of your brain which gets you to actually do stuff is a bit like a muscle, you know? So if your muscles are really weak, like your physical muscles, and you couldn't even lift up a 10-kilo weight, then you need to start with a 2-kilo weight. Right, so that's the distinction. Rather than saying, "Oh, I can't lift up a 10-kilo weight, I may as well just like eat McDonald's and lie in front of the couch and watch TV because I'm obviously a loser and I'm a failure and I'm a procrastinator and I can't get anything done and all the rest of it." No, that's okay. You know, accept where you're at the time, accept your limitations, start from there, be totally forgiving and accepting of yourself, but also, you know, do your best at every stage to develop that part of you that allows you to make decisions, set goals, see them through, you know, achieve results, because that's the thing that's going to make the biggest difference in your life. And then when you have that capacity, that's where all the awesome information as to how to do things, like, you know, so many of us provide, can slot into that.
Yeah, I think the one of the things that I didn't like sometimes about some of the bigger motivational, speakers, or take Tony Robbins for example. You know, great, one of the greatest presenters, greatest. I mean, he probably doesn't like being called a motivational speaker. Everyone refers to him, but I remember back in the day when I heard his story, about how he went from, from washing the dishes in the bathtub. That story, I'm sure he's told a gazillion times.
Yeah.
To then, going around the country and making billions and living in a castle. I think for some people, those kinds of stories, they can almost be too much of. It's like, oh, it's too big a story, it's too big a jump. Whereas I like what you're saying there is that as long as if people are willing to forgive themselves, take a deep breath, relax, and take stock of where they are right now, and then use that as the starting point. Say, okay, what can I do to just take that first step? What would be the next step? What would be the next step? What would be the next step? And if a person's willing to ask those questions consistently, and I'm a great follower of Jerry and Esther Hicks, their information. They often talk about, vibrating at the level that you want, being in accordance with what it is that you want. So it's not something you feel like, excuse me, that you feel like you have it. Now, again, I think for some people that in itself could be, they could read it, it could make sense, but again, it could be challenging unless they've got these fundamentals in place that you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Because you can attempt to manifest, you can attempt to bring things into your life, but if you're not eating well and you're not feeling good, maybe there are some people out there that they, regardless of what they eat, they can generate a very good feeling and they can bring things into their life that they want. And I know we're sort of getting slightly off the subject here, but to make life easy, you can't argue with the fact that if you consume something that's fresh, like and living and vibrant, compared to something that's dead and packaged and been in a microwave, at some point along the line, you're better off put your eggs in the fresh, raw, living foods basket and turn away from the other foods. Because if you don't, you're not gonna feel good within yourself, and if you're not gonna feel good within yourself, then that's going to affect your thinking, because all of your thinking and decisions come out of how you feel anyway. So I like what you're saying there, and if you've got time, you could maybe explain a little bit more about the prefrontal cortex. Is it?
Yeah. Well, to relate it to what you were saying there, about what Esther and Jerry Hicks, like what they're basically saying is, law of attraction, right? You resonate at a certain frequency, and then you attract the things into your life that you want. But again, how do you resonate at a certain frequency? It's by taking your focus and constantly, consciously, shifting it onto what you want. Now, that is a skill, like a muscle, to take your focus, to become aware, first of all, that you are focusing on something, rather than feeling like, oh, I just am the way I am. Oh, wait, it's a choice, right? That's a skill. And then to take that focus and shift it onto something else, that's a skill, right? And that's a skill that you haven't necessarily got, especially if the prefrontal cortex isn't working properly. And also, I totally agree with what you're saying, Mike. And let me say one of the other things which I think is like an issue with our brain that we're hardwired with, and because of our hundreds of thousands of years or millions of years, depending on how you classify a human being, of evolution, it's our natural tendency to focus on food. And that's because most of the key fundamental aspects to health, up until very recently, we could totally take for granted. However, I think a switch has happened, very recently, and now food is the least of most people's problems. It's not that it's not significant. I mean, if you eat vast amounts of poison, like a lot of people do, obviously you're going to feel like you poisoned yourself, right? So there's no doubting that. But there are things which are more fundamental. You know, like I created the energy ladder. I like to say that, you know, energy is like a game of snakes and ladders, right? There are the snakes which kind of lead you all the way down, like, you know, stimulant abuse, and then there's the ladder, the way to get to that top level of energy mastery. And the first, you know, at least 50% steps of the ladder, the top priorities to start with don't include food, to me, you know. Their mindset, like we just talked about here. Also, getting enough oxygen into your body. Getting enough hydration. Alkalizing and remineralizing yourself. Tonifying yourself, you know. I think someone is better off probably not eating the optimal raw diet, but really heavily focusing on tonifying themselves.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that now more than ever before.
So it's understanding, but the reason why we're so programmed to think that it's all about food is, think about it. Up until recently, we always got fresh air. We almost always had water, rainwater if nothing else, right? Decent water. Everything we ate would be wild, so it'd all be decently mineralized when we did find something, right? Tonic herbs, again, were just everywhere. We would just consume them all the time, so we wouldn't have to think about that. Our lifestyle wasn't anywhere near as acidic. We'd be eating greens all the time, so we didn't have to worry about alkalinity. So all the things that are the most important for energy now, we take for granted because we always could take it for granted. And the one thing that we didn't used to be able to take for granted is that we'd have enough food. And the right kind of food. So we're always thinking about food. We're always obsessed with food. What kind of food am I having? Is this food bad? Am I eating the right amount of food? Have I got enough food? You know, and that is the focus of like the prehistoric brain. You know, the brain that we've had throughout our evolution. And now everything's switched, and we need to stop focusing on food and start focusing on everything that's primary based on our situation now. But again, to do that takes like presence and consciousness, and then taking our focus and like making ourselves apply it in different areas. Like, okay, you know, I mean, I'm sure, how many people have you met, Mike, who are like, you know what, I seem to eat like 100% raw green diet and I still feel terrible.
One or two.
I still don't have any energy, and I take all these supplements, you know, and it's like, well, are you breathing fresh air? What? You know, how are you breathing? Are you breathing through the belly? What do you mean? You know, here's a little factoid for you, Mike, which I'm sure you'll probably like. You know, so we didn't talk about chi yet. So chi is the other type of energy, and there's two facets to chi. There's what's called the spleen and the lungs, and that's basically the digestive system and the respiratory system, right? Now, most people's focus, of course, because of what we talked about before, is the digestive system. Not to say that that's not important, because as I say, if you eat a load of poison, you are going to feel bad. But what about the respiratory system, right? From a Western scientific point of view, chi is very similar to ATP, right? It's cellular energy. That's literally where matter meets energy. And an interesting little factoid I came up with recently, which you may well know because of your focus. In exercise psychology, in exercise physiology, when they look at the amount of ATP production, they say when you're exercising anaerobically, you can get 2 units of ATP, like basically energy, for 1 unit of glucose, right? If you're exercising aerobically, you can get up to 38 units of ATP from 1 unit of glucose. Now, 19 times as much energy from the same amount of food, basically, right? So if you are eating well and you are wondering why you do not have enough energy yet, think about the other massive elephant in the room side of the equation. How much oxygen are you getting? Because I don't think it's just about exercising aerobically or anaerobically. It's like, how are you living? Are you living anaerobically or aerobically? And most people are living anaerobically. They don't have enough oxygen to meet their energy needs. They're working on fermentation to make their energy. Their body's full of parasites. Their body's acidic. You know, these are all classic signs that often start with oxygen depletion, like improper breathing. You know, so that's another facet that we talk about, you know, before we even think about food or herbs or anything like that in the program, which you're going to be linking to, which is completely free. You know, these kind of, and you know, when I speak to people like yourself,
Did you say it was free, Elwin?
It's free with an F and then 3 parts with a TH.
Gotcha. I'm with you.
I still don't know what's the difference. Free and free. I never learned how to do this at school. It's my Achilles heel, Mike's revealed.
Yeah, that's all right. No, it's good. It sounds good. It all sounds good. In fact, just to say, one of the things I, you know, to try and drive a point home with people sometimes is say, look, if I came at you and I put my hand over your mouth, it wouldn't take me long to kill you. So that just goes to show how first and foremost important this, again, it's like the whole thing about fish. Fish don't know about water because they're around it all the time. So we're around, we breathe all the time, but what we don't really know is if that's the fastest way to kill someone, apart from, a bullet to the head, then the first thing is appreciating and having the awareness of how important that is, the breath is. So the next question is, well, what would be best? Well, for me, what would be best would be on a mountain, snowboarding down a mountain. That's probably the best air that I get in the year. I certainly don't get it here. One of the reasons I sit, next to the patio doors is so that when the weather's good and it's not raining, there's always fresh air, because most of the pollution is in people's homes. In fact, they say that most people's homes are more polluted inside than being in the middle of the city. So something simple like that as opening windows at night is critical for good health. And it may be someone doesn't change their diet or anything, but they open their window at night, they're breathing fresher air, and all of a sudden they wonder why they're feeling better. So I can appreciate what you're saying. It sounds brilliant, the fact that you've broken it down into easy, understandable sections, so people could look at it and go, okay, well, where do I need to improve this area? Okay, I can improve that there. I can improve this there. And it seems like rather than just picking up a book which says, eat this and don't eat that, you're looking at the whole thing. And I think the best thing about you, Elwin, is that, as you said before, for many years you experienced, poor health, but managed to, there's going to be a lot of people out there that will vibe with that. And whereas not only have you turned it around, but it's like you've turned it around and launched yourself off into a place where you are experiencing the abundance that you're teaching. So again, that's one of the reasons why I want people to pay attention to what else you've got to say. So what else you've got to say?
There's an interesting. I put a little clip on I think it's the first video in the series where I show you what my live blood looked like 3.5 years ago, when I was eating 100% raw food, when I was eating mainly greens, when I'd done liver flushes, colon cancer, and all the rest of it, and it looked horrible. It looked like mutated. Like, what the hell is that, And then I did it again half a year ago as the last time, and it looked like it should do, And it's just to show you, you can eat all the right stuff, but if you are not aware of the basics, which is what I'm teaching here, and it's really mastering the basics which made all the difference to me. I mean, there's all the advanced stuff as well, and we go over all that as well. Like I say, this isn't just for exhausted people. This is for everyone, so even your top athletes or whoever, they're going to get massive benefit from this. But we're going all the way from the spectrum, from the very most basic things to the very most advanced, all in one sitting, rather than feeling like, you have to go to this person to learn how to get out of bed, and then this person to learn how to walk, and then this person to learn how to run. Let's just get it all in one go. And
good stuff.
Thank you so much for what you said, Mike. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate your passion and enthusiasm to learn about all this stuff. I mean, the way that you've embraced tonic herbs and understanding, in fact, the whole tonic system, right? Not just herbs, but all the different energies and all the rest of it. And it's obvious to see just how much it's benefited you, partly in your energy, but also I think you have a greater degree of maybe calm and presence and focus than you did before, which would relate to that Shen energy.
Yeah, I think so, and I think what I've realised, which I think is important for everybody else to realise as well, is that if you're acutely aware and you open up your senses, you'll realise that as the world seems to be getting more and more technological, in my opinion now, it's very easy to learn everything that you need to learn. Thanks to obviously people like you and putting these courses out there, because these as far as I'm concerned, there are some people that will, they'll just dish a little bit of info out just to make some money, or they'll think, okay, what can I do to really help someone maximise every aspect of their health? And clearly you've got all that knowledge to share with people, you're sharing it with people, and people are getting results. So there's kind of like, it's like the 1, 2, 3, Some people haven't really got, they may have a little bit of knowledge, and that's great. And they can help a few people. To me, you seem to have embodied not only a very common sense, logical approach, but there's a lot of emotion behind it as well. There's a lot of passion. And, I've no doubt whatsoever that anybody that goes through your course, unless they buy the course and just sit there and turn the news on and ignore the course, which I'm sure they won't do, but as long as someone's willing to go through the course, I'm sure that it can only lead to bigger and better things. I think, and what my point is that there's so much good information out there now. There's so many good, products. There's so many good approaches. Understanding how you can just weave it all into your life and make it seem simple. So when you get up in the morning, it's as simple as brushing your teeth or as simple as switching on a light bulb. All of those kinds of things. That really is what I think people have got to look forward to, because I know that if anybody, you're the one person that wants to make it easy.
Most definitely, because I know it has to be to help most people. And I just want to mention here, Mike, that what we're offering a link to here is not a paid course. It is entirely free. You got 3 hours of training, and I'm not holding anything back. I'm giving you all of it. There's going to be an opportunity for me to help you, like coach you and support you through it if you're interested in that afterwards. But even if you're not, I mean, the reason why I decided to put everything into there is because I know, as I'm sure you know, Mike, that out of the vast majority of people who watch your videos or whatever, most of them don't buy anything from you. They just watch it, right? So I'm like, I want to help as many people as possible. So I'm just going to give you all the information to do with as you will, and try and encourage you and inspire you and all the rest of it. And then you can choose to either run with it, or later, if you want, you can choose to have me help you, walk you hand by hand and guide you step by step through it. Of course, I mean, I'd love to do that, but it's here for you no matter what. So this is something that I want to make available. And please, if you enjoy it, don't forget to share it. There's a joy that comes from contribution, right? There's a reason that me and Mike do this. I mean, I'm sure we could make as much money being like middle management, right? And probably have a more stable income. But the reason that we do this is because we want to contribute to the world. We love that feeling about helping people, making the world a better place. And even if you're not in the place yet where you want to write a book like Mike has, or release some videos like I am now, you can still share other people's stuff. You can still share this training with as many people as you can. And that's offering real value to the world too.
I think the last, I don't know if we're wrapping up here or not, but the last thing I want to mention is something that I always, is something that, how can I put it? It's a very powerful principle, I think, if you sort of meditate on it. And it came to me when I was driving along in the car, and I saw somebody in the car in front open the window and throw a wrapper out the window. And I sort of sat there and I thought, now I wonder what would happen if everybody did that. What would happen if everybody just threw something out of a window? Not a real big deal, but if everybody did it, the whole world would be an absolute shithole, And then I thought, when you talk about what you're talking about there, if everybody was to share this information, and truly, this is not just sort of words coming out of my mouth. If everybody was to truly share this kind of information, like you're doing here, for free, which people need to just get that into their head, then it poses the question: if everybody was feeling good, if everybody's health improved, if everybody's energy was vibrant, then what would happen to a lot of the institutions that have to spend a lot of money, etc., on getting people well? There would be less and less need for that, and with less and less need for that, there'd be less and less need for a lot of the greed and the corporate greed around the pharmaceutical industries. That's something to bear in mind. But more importantly than that, if everyone was feeling well and feeling and vibrating at a higher frequency and being inspired, then just as we love to do what we love to do, somebody might be watching this video, get themselves into that state where their energy rises up, they're able to vibrate at a higher level, they're able to bring in what they want, and thus then they could achieve what they want. And if everybody was achieving what they want and following their passion and being inspired, then where does it go from there? That is an ultimate vision and an ultimate place to be. So, and what it comes down to is decisions that you've made today to give away give away information to people for free to allow that to happen. Because I bet there'll be someone out there that doesn't pay a penny to you, doesn't pay a penny to me, but from this information, 2 or 3 years down the line, they're effectively living their dream and attracting everything they want into their life. And for that, that's what makes this brilliant. So yeah, thanks, Elwin, for putting it out there. Thanks for your I suspect it's hard work, early hours in the morning, late hours at night, getting this ready for people.
Maybe.
But I think it's absolutely awesome. So yeah, I'll take my hat off to you.